Good evening, Internet. Welcome back to another night of me talking about Alien for probably far too long. I watched Alien Earth episodes 1 and 2, and I wanted to talk about them. Spoiler warning. I would highly recommend you go watch the first 2 episodes of Alien Earth before we talk about them, or else you're going to spoil it for yourself. So consider this your spoiler warning before I pull up my notes. And 3, 2, 1. There we go. All right. So these are the notes that I took during Alien Earth. Before the show actually starts, there's an information screen. It talks about cyborgs, synthetics, and hybrids. So cyborgs, cybernetic organisms, these are humans that have been enhanced in some way by cybernetics. Synthetics, these are synthetic people. And then hybrids are the new thing for this series. We saw synthetics in Alien and Aliens and Alien Romulus and Prometheus and Alien Covenant. Big deal about synthetics. We've never seen hybrids before. A hybrid is a human mind or a human consciousness in a synthetic body. So the body is made, it's constructed, but the mind is that of a person. We're going to get into that a little bit later as well. So once it gets through the information pages, it opens on the USCSS Maginot. It opens basically the same way that Alien does, but it's a little bit faster. It's paced a little bit more for like modern audiences. They pop out of their cryopods. They go to the mess hall. They start eating together. One of them is smoking a cigarette, just like John Hurt in the original. And they talk about the 5 companies that are in control of Earth and Saturn and a bunch of other things. They originally say the 4 companies, but then they introduce the 5th company, which is the new one, which is Prodigy. Prodigy is special because the CEO of Prodigy is the youngest trillionaire in history. He's a genius. He's like a prodigy. And he is doing something that like is encroaching or like he's gaining ground on the other 4 companies that have held this monopoly for quite some time within this universe. I wrote down right here. You guys can probably see the contrast between these 2 sentences. The way that it's directed is very much like the way that Alien is directed. It's very much in the style of Ridley Scott, up until it gets to kind of the title sequence. It kind of makes you think that these people on the ship are going to be the crew that we follow, that we're going to learn about them, that they're going to be like developed, and then we're going to have like Alien again. And then it goes into the subtle foreshadowing name where everything is just happening. And we get to see flashes of a facehugger. We get to see flashes of these creatures. We get to see flashes of a xenomorph. We get to see a very condensed version of what the crew of the USCSS Maginot goes through. It's very quick. It's a lot of information to take in at once. I actually had to go back and slow it down and go like very slowly through it to see all the things that happened. So then we go to something completely different. Prodigy is the center of the episode. It's going to cut back to the USCSS Maginot later with what's his name, Morrow. It's going to cut back to him towards the end of the episode, but like the bulk of the episode takes place at Prodigy. Prodigy has taken a human girl who has some kind of terminal disease. They've taken her consciousness and they put it into a synthetic body, creating the first hybrid. This facility that they're at, it's called Neverland. It's a direct reference to Peter Pan. When they do her surgery, they're playing the Disney cartoon Peter Pan on the ceiling. And she's watching this cartoon, and then she looks over at the synthetic body that's going to be her, and she says, she looks like a Wendy. So she does the body transfer. Her consciousness is put into the synthetic body. She becomes like an adult and stronger than she's ever been, smarter than she's ever been. But she's still the consciousness of this little girl. It cuts to her like experiencing her body and like experimenting and becoming a person. And then one of her keepers is like, Wendy, darling, won't you come inside? So I wrote down, Wendy, darling, you get it? Do you get it? Somewhere in this conversation of her like growing into her body, becoming a person, it cuts to a black screen. And I thought that was the end of the episode. I was like, okay, that's kind of a weird place to stop it, but I understand. And then it goes back to the USCSS Maginot. Morrow is he's in Mother. He's talking to the computer of the ship. He says, yeah, the crew's all dead. And while he's typing this out, that the crew is all dead, somebody from the crew comes up and starts knocking on the door like, hey, let me in. It's out here. It's going to get me. And he just ignores her. He's like, and she's like banging on the door. She's making a lot of noise. And the xenomorph comes up behind her. And that's when he like stands up and he's like, okay. And he walks up towards the door. And so you would think that he was going to open the door. And then his wrists or his knuckles split apart. And he pulls out a flame torch and starts sealing the door behind him so that she can't get in and the xenomorph can't get in. Did not expect that. Was not expecting that at all. Good job to the writers for like having that cool surprise, that cool reveal. It cuts back to Wendy now, and she's talking about her brother. She had an older brother who doesn't know that she has been transferred into this body. It's a secret project. Nobody's supposed to know about it. So as far as he knows, his sister is just gone. He is a medic with the military. He's hanging out with his military buddies. He tells them, I was going to go retire, but they wouldn't accept my retirement. Kind of like what happened in Alien Romulus, where she tried to be like, I've met quota, I'm ready to go. And they were like, no, you can't do that. Same thing here. Weyland-Yutani, Prodigy, for whatever reason, they're not letting people go from their contracts. They're keeping them locked into their contracts. So she's telling somebody about her brother. She says he's named after Joe DiMaggio. So he's got kind of a baseball theme with him. He is with his military buddies and he looks up and Morrow, who was the pilot of the ship, he sets a crash course for Earth, says that it's inevitable, crawls into the impact pod in the cockpit, and then the ship crashes into Earth. And Joe, her brother, sees this. And so Prodigy, their security forces, they like get what's it called? Prepped. They get prepped, and then they go to like do search and rescue, like make sure that people are safe, evacuate the building if they need to, and they start going into this disaster zone. Wendy is looking through these cameras and she has some kind of power. I wrote down here she's a technomancer. She has some kind of power over these data streams where she can like control what cameras are on screen. So she clicks on the screen and she like drags it over and it changes the cameras. And she's looking through this information. She sees her brother and she's like, I gotta go. Like, I gotta go be with him. I've got to go protect him. I've got to go make sure he's safe. He's my brother. He's my only living family. I gotta go. So she goes and she talks to Prodigy. She's like, I need to go down there. I need to be like part of the search and rescue team. I'm faster than the other humans. I'm more dedicated, all of this stuff. And he's like, why would I let you do that? And then one of her keepers is like, look at her face. Like, she's passionate about this. She's got to go. Come on, let her do it. Prodigy's like, all right. So she gets really excited. She runs to her bedroom, and this part made me laugh out loud. She grabs a stuffed animal and she straps it onto her side. And then she grabs a paper cutter, like the old fashioned paper cutters. She just tears the blade off of it and then straps it to her back like a sword. Ridiculous. Two of the military unit, two of the rescue crew, they get attacked. I don't remember how they get tied up. They get attacked by a space tick. It's like this bug. It's crawling over them, and then at some point, it decides that it's safe to feed, and it latches onto one of their necks, and it just engorges itself. And when we see it in the second episode, it's like a blood sac. It's big, big red bug. And I wrote down in my notes here, that's a big tick. And it happens to two of them. For some reason, I think that they get captured by somebody and they get tied up. And they're like, come on, rescue us. And they're like, we'll be back for you later. And then these bugs come out and like feast on them. And then that kind of like leads into the ending. So it's Wendy and the other Lost Boys. They're on the ship. I forgot to talk about the other Lost Boys. So there's a whole unit of these Lost Boys that are like Wendy. They're children who had some kind of terminal illness, and they had their consciousness transferred into a synthetic. So they look like they're in their like late teens, early 20s. They look like young adults, but they have the minds of these like probably 8 to 12-year-olds. And so they act very childish, but they look like grown-ups. So that's something that you should be aware of. So this little unit of the hybrids, they're on their way to this crash site, and one of their keepers is a synthetic, and he's talking to Wendy, and he says that, humans, you thought you crawled up to the top of the food chain. You thought that there was nothing bigger than you, but there's always something bigger than you. There's always something bigger. There's always something smaller. You can never get to the top of the food chain. You can just become part of the rung. And he says, that's why we're superior, because we're not humans. We're not food. We're not even part of the food chain. We're immortal because nothing is going to eat us. But humans are food. And I think that it's really cool how the directing kind of compared these two things, because on the one thing, you don't usually think about like space ticks. You don't think about bloodsuckers. You don't think about these small animals that come in and kind of attach themselves to humans and drink their blood. But there's this repositioning happening of like, humans aren't the top anymore. We're not the superior species. Synths, hybrids, cyborgs, they're all just a little bit higher than us. I wonder if that will be a recurring theme in the show. I sure hope it will be. So that's kind of the end of episode 1. Episode 2. very early in the episode, I think like 3 minutes in, Wendy's brother is exploring this crash site. And I really like one touch of the site is that there are these sparks that are falling down from the roof. And it happens like the entire episode. Like when they look out the windows, you see these sparks falling down. When they're in a stairwell, there's sparks falling down. At the end of the episode, when she like jumps out of a hole, there's sparks falling down. It's a really cool, like recurring visual motif. Wendy's brother is talking with another one of the military unit, and he realizes aliens. He has somehow like looked at the scene. He's figured these things out. We're not dealing with stuff from Earth. This vessel was carrying something alien, something extraterrestrial. And he realizes it like 3 minutes into the episode. They hide the xenomorph in frame, I think 3 times before we actually see it moving. It's really well done. I really like this part. If you remember at the end of Alien, spoilers for Alien, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's really good. At the end of Alien, when Sigourney Weaver is going to get into her cryopod, and the alien is like hiding aboard her escape pod, and it just like stretches out its arms. That's a really cool scene. And they do that like 3 times in this episode. I thought that was really cool. Prodigy, the young CEO, he's having a conversation with one of his assistants. I don't remember if she's synthetic or not. I think that she might be human. But he's talking about it's an intelligence race, right? We have AI. We've had AI for a little while. AI, it's fine. It's serviceable for what we need to do. But humans are always going to have more potential. They'll always be able to become smarter, whereas a machine might not be able to. And he says, it's not about the money. It's an intelligence race. I want to have a conversation with someone smarter than me, which, kind of an ego on him, huh? If I remember, Wayland kind of thought the same thing, right? I want to meet somebody better than me. I wonder if that's going to come back into play as well. I didn't notice this when I first watched through it, but I noticed it on the second time. He's eating an apple. And if you were an English major, I was an English major. Apples have kind of like complicated metaphorical history. But 2 that stood out to me, Garden of Eden, the whole Prometheus plot was about like finding the Garden of Eden, finding our makers. He's looking for an intelligence. He's eating from the forbidden apple, metaphorically. The other thing is that he's a tech CEO, like Steve Jobs. He's probably biting into an apple. So that's something to keep in mind. I don't know how like intended that was. It might be like the directors just wanted him to be like moving and doing something, but he's literally biting into an apple because of his position, because of like the background for Prometheus. I don't think it's a stretch. Wendy's brother is a hermit. They call him Hermit as his last name, Joe Hermit. He gets ambushed by the xenomorph at some point. There's a stairwell. They have to jump across it because the stairs are out. 2 of them jump across, and then they turn around for Joe, and they're like, hey, come on, we'll catch you. And Joe is like getting ready to cross, and he hears something above him, and he looks up, and the mouth of the alien just kind of like descends from the top of the ceiling. And he sees like the metallic teeth, which is a really cool shot. And then he panics. He jumps across. He doesn't make the jump. He hits the ledge, and then he drops down to the floor below. The xenomorph hits the platform, jumps after him, also doesn't make the ledge. Ridiculous. This is the universe's perfect killing machine, but it also fails to hit the ledge. I don't know what the xenomorph's plan was. I don't know if it was just bloodlust, but it did not make this jump. So Joe throws open the door, runs down the hallway, turns the corner, runs up to the elevator, presses the button. The whole time the xenomorph is behind him. Ridiculous. Xenomorphs are much faster than people. Right? Am I wrong here? Am I making a big deal about nothing? How did he outrun a xenomorph? Isn't the whole thing of the xenomorph is it's like the universe's perfect killing machine? Aren't they fast? I think that I want to impress that this is not a serious show. It's made by the same people who did Fargo, or at least one of the same people who did Fargo. So it's meant to be a little bit funny. So if I'm saying like, this is ridiculous, don't take offense to it. I think that it's funny. I think that it's fun. I saw somebody yesterday on Mastodon. I don't really use social media anymore except for Mastodon and YouTube, I guess. But I saw this person on Mastodon, and I don't want to like name names. I don't want anybody to go track them down. They were just like, oh my God, Alien Earth is such shit. The plot doesn't make any sense. The creatures, they're all small. Small isn't scary, was one of their points, which I vehemently disagree with. They're like, I don't know why anybody thought that this would be a good idea. It's fun. It's a fun series so far. I can't say that it's going to be a good series. Like, it's ridiculous. It's goofy. But I'm having fun with it. So there's a flashback in which Joe is going to resign from Prodigy. He goes up to a robot. There's a sign on the wall that says like no masks, no hats, no glasses, something like that. The robots have to scan your face because they have to be sure that it's you. Bringing that up for no reason. It has no bearing on any current events that are happening, nothing happening with YouTube, nothing happening with social media in the UK. Complete coincidence. He goes up to this robot. He's like, I want to resign. I'm checking in about some paperwork. I've already submitted my resignation. I just want to check out. The robot is like, I don't understand. Like, give me this information. You said this, you said this, you said this. And he's finally like, isn't there a person I could talk to? A human? And I was just like, mood. I've had that same experience on the phone. Luckily, I haven't had it in person yet. But I've definitely had that. How do I get a person? How do I talk to a human being? And I thought that was really just a good, like, pertinent moment. So he is talking to this person. It's established earlier in the episode, or maybe in the first episode. I can't really remember. It's established that he and his sister watched Disney's Ice Age at some point when they were children. I'm sure that you've probably seen, if you haven't seen it yet, you should go look it up. The sloth from Ice Age is in the frame with Wendy at one point, and it's been a big deal all over social media. But that was like one of the first things that I heard about was the sloth being in the frame with Wendy. But it is established that they watched Disney cartoons, they watched Pixar cartoons when they were younger. He is like, he quotes it or something, and she is a technomancer. She like touches the camera that she's watching it through, and she says the end of the quote. It's something about fury, and he mixes it up with furry. And the brother is like shocked for a moment. He's like, what did you say? Like, what did you just say to me? And the robot just immediately goes back to, sorry, your claim is denied, and does a a metaphoric stamp or something like that. But that's like us getting to see Wendy's power, where she can like jack in to these data streams. She can interact with like robots or technology in a way that that humans can't because of her synthetic body. This is where the blood sacs come back, and by this point they are huge. They're like a thing. Originally they're kind of like stick bugs with like a big dragonfly I don't want to do that motion again. They're like a dragonfly with a big like line behind them, but once they start sucking blood, they like suck all of the blood. The Lost Boys are going through this factory. They're going through this research vessel, and they find a kitty. But the kitty is like zombified. Trigger warning if you need it. This kitty, like half of its face is necrotic. And as they're like looking at it, the eyeball like pops out and it grows these tentacles. And the tentacles like let it run. I like the eyeball squid thing. I thought that it was cool. I think that it's cool creature design. My problem with it right now is that it sees these synths. As far as it knows it, they have no like organics to them. They're all synthetic. Why is it attacking them? Does it just like see the shape of them? I don't know what intelligence this eyeball squid has. And eyeball squids, I would expect to be like amphibious, or what is it? I would expect them to be like a water creature. Why are they running around a space station? Yeah, so many questions about these eyeball squids. I hope that we get more answers about them in the future. There's also like a plant growing from the ceiling that they find. I didn't find it super interesting because it's just like a possibly animal, possibly plant, something. We haven't gotten any answers about it yet. But I thought that this eyeball squid was cool. They're going through this building that the spaceship has crashed into, and it's they knock on the door of this one place, and these people open the door. They open the door and they're dressed like the French aristocracy. They have like white face paints. They have like the wigs. They're dressed in the old-fashioned clothes. Marie Antoinette. Prior to the French Revolution, all of that. I don't even have to like analyze that. They're dressed like the French aristocracy. They're partying in this building so hard they haven't even realized that there's an emergency outside. They have closed their doors. They are in the midst of their drinking, of their merriment, all of that. And then the alien comes. I wrote down one creature French Revolution because the alien goes through and it tears them apart in about 10 seconds. Most of the gore happens off screen. Joe walks in and sees the aftermath of it, and it is very gory. Wouldn't recommend it if you have like a sensitivity to gore. But very quickly, this xenomorph goes through and just decimates them. Eviscerates is probably the best word. This creature goes through and eviscerates these rich people. And then for some reason, Joe decides that he's going to go in with the rifle of one of the soldiers and see if he can put a stop to the xenomorph. And it does not go well for him. Morrow. I talked about Morrow a little bit in the first episode. Morrow comes back. In the first episode, Morrow makes a big point that their ship is looking for specimens. Specimens is the mission. Specimens are the mission. he is looking for specimens. So he comes in with this gun that, for some reason, instead of shooting bullets, shoots like a stun gun, like ray, I guess. It hits the xenomorph while it's going for Joe. The electricity from the stun ray like bounces off of the xenomorph's teeth. Very cool shot. And then he uses this gun to spray the xenomorph with this like silly string like liquid that turns into a sack. So he reaches down and he picks up the xenomorph in a bag like it's luggage and then walks off with it, which I think very funny visual. He goes towards the elevator. He's trying to get into the elevator and leave. And he gets stopped by the colonial or by the Prodigy Marines, by the Prodigy soldiers. And they're like, you know, that's an emergency, right? You should get out of here. And he turns around and he's kind of acting suspicious. His gun is like inside the elevator and he can't reach it. And then the xenomorph starts to wake up and it like tears through the bag. So these soldiers, they just see the bag like moving and they're like, are you a murderer? Are you kidnapping someone? What's going on here? And so they start holding him up. They're like, turn around, put your hands on the back of your head. You're under arrest, like you're being detained, whatever they're going to do. So he turns around, he puts his hands on the back of his head. And then while he's doing that, the xenomorph like stands up and just eviscerates these soldiers. This xenomorph, probably the most aggressive I've ever seen. It's not hiding. It's not going through the vents. It's not doing any of that. It's going for people for some reason. I don't know why it's so aggressive, but it is just tearing people apart. It comes back while Morrow is like holding his hands behind his head or whatever, and it like goes behind him, like it's gonna eat him, and then it hears something and it turns around and it runs off. So I wrote here, Morrow, luckiest cyborg in the series? Question mark. I don't know if there have been any other like lucky cyborgs. I think that they usually get killed. While he's looking like through this rich person's apartment, Joe Hermit, he finds this Reggie Jackson baseball from the 1977 World Series. I'm not a baseball person. He finds this Reggie Jackson baseball from the game where he hit 3 home runs. He and his dad used to watch these sports replays, the highlights. And so he knows about this game and he like picks it up and he's watching the game and he's entranced by it. And then he puts the baseball down and the TV turns off. And in the reflection, he can see Wendy. Wendy is his sister's mind, but he doesn't recognize her body because he never got to see her like this. And so he doesn't recognize her at first. So she's got another lost boy. I think that it's Smee, but I could be wrong. She's got another lost boy like running around with her. And he like, they're walking through a hallway and he just like drops that Wendy is Joe's sister. And so Joe doesn't believe it at first. He's like testing her. He's like, tell me what you said on the first day of kindergarten when you got beat up. Tell me what you said on Christmas this time. Tell me all of this stuff. And after like 2 or 3 times, he's like, you really are my sister, aren't you? And she hugs him in a big reunion. But while he's doing this, she asks him, like, who are you talking to when you picked up the baseball? And he said, well, I'm talking to Dad. I'm talking to my dad. We used to watch the highlights. I talk to him sometimes. But he passed away about a year ago. He was the only thing that I had left. And she's like, you still talk to Dad? And he kind of finds that weird, but he kind of like brushes it off, and they go through until he realizes that she's his sister. So I'm wondering if we're going to find out more about the dad. There's this like baseball theme of like Wendy and Joe's dad passed them this legacy of the old world, the baseball, the cartoons. The dad kind of like connected them to the old world, the way that things were before the corporations, the way that things were before the cyborgs. And so they both have this like nostalgia for this old world. And I wonder how much of that is going to come up. They go through this hallway, they find this lab, and at the end of the lab, I think are 6 eggs. But it's the 3rd time that they've done the blue laser over the eggs thing. They did it in Alien, they did it in Alien Romulus, now they're doing it in Alien Earth. So there's a blue laser over these 6 eggs. As soon as they step into it, that's what summons the xenomorph to come protect the eggs. So maybe the eggs are why the xenomorph in this show is more aggressive than the others. Not quite sure. But it would make sense if it was like protecting these 6 eggs. So I have questions, but I wanted to talk about a little bit of my analysis so far. We're only 2 episodes in, so we don't know everything yet. But I think that we've got a good idea of like what the central themes of the show are going to be. I had this question up here. When Morrow crashes the ship in episode 1, did he do that on purpose, or did he do that on behalf of Weyland-Yutani? Was this like his plan to get the xenomorph to Earth, or is this Weyland-Yutani doing this? I don't know the answer to that yet. We do get to see Yutani from Weyland-Yutani. At one point in the show, she calls up Prodigy and she's like, "You have my property. I'd like to see a team. I'd like to send a team to go recover anything that's proprietary." And Prodigy is like, we're kind of like working through it right now. Maybe come back in some time." And she's like, I'm afraid I must insist. Like, I really want to be part of this. I really want Weyland-Yutani to be part of this. And he's like, it crashed in my building. Like, it's my prerogative. So did Weyland-Yutani do this on purpose? Do they know about the xenomorph at this point? We know that they know that there are alien species in Alien, but this is prior to that. We know that they know that there are alien species in Prometheus, but is that even canon to this? So questions. Something I wanted to talk about was Peter Pan. It's been a long time since I've watched or read Peter Pan. I don't remember a lot of it just because it's been so long. But from what I remember, Peter Pan is about the fear of growing up. Wendy is afraid to grow up. Peter Pan is afraid to grow up. And Peter offers her like this sanctuary in Neverland. He takes her to Neverland, where she gets to meet the Lost Boys who never grow up, because whenever they do grow up, Peter Pan tosses them aside. Like once they become adults, Peter Pan sends them away. So there's this fear throughout it of growing up, getting older, things like that. With the Lost Boys of this show, with Wendy and the others, they're never going to grow up because they're in synthetic bodies. They're going to be 20-somethings forever, basically. Their mind will get like older. They'll learn things. They'll gain wisdom, but they themselves will never age. So Prodigy has essentially cured death, but only for people who do this hybrid thing. Another thing that popped out, there's a scene where Prodigy is reading from the novel, and the passage that he chooses to read is this passage about Wendy's mom, who knows about Peter Pan. She knows about this fear of getting older. And she goes around at night and she tries to make her children forget about Peter Pan and about getting older and about their fears of getting older. So is this about the fear of aging? Is this the fear of mortality? Is this about like trying to suppress the fear of mortality? What is the ultimate tie-in from Peter Pan? And I think that the writers know what that's going to be eventually. I don't know what that's going to be eventually. I'm just speculating. But those were my thoughts about the Peter Pan connection. So at the end of the episode, it kind of ends on a cliffhanger. The xenomorph appears, sees Joe. I think that I wrote at some point, like, this xenomorph really wants Joe, but I don't know if that like got erased or what. But the xenomorph really wants Joe. It pushes him out of a hole in the ship. He falls down. Wendy turns around to her lost boyfriend. She says, protect the eggs, or she says, protect the omelet is what she actually says. But, you know, stay here, protect the eggs. Don't let anything happen to them. And then she jumps out too. And this jumping out of the hole in the ship, this is another like nod to Peter Pan where like he can fly and he can like jump off the pirate ship and he can like fly around. But I thought that was a cool tie-in for the Peter Pan references, and it's a cliffhanger. So we don't know what's going to happen. What happens next? And that was the end of the first 2 episodes. So like I said, I'm not taking it too seriously because it doesn't seem to take itself very seriously. It's very much in that like dark comedy, Fargo, like this is serious subject matter, but also remember that it's just entertainment, is kind of the tone that they've set for the show. I think that we're going to get more information about what happened in like the time between the USCSS Maginot like waking up and then crashing into Earth. As it is now, it's just a montage. There's a lot of like there's a lot of environmental storytelling in the show, which I like. When they find the medical bay, there are 2 characters in the medical bay. One has had their chest opened up, and they've got not scars, bruising around their neck. So it's possible that they got face hugged. And there's another one who is like lying on the floor, and she has blood coming out of her eye and her mouth. And she's blue. So she hasn't been xenomorphed. She hasn't been face hugged. What happened to her? Is this like the plant that might not be a plant? Is this the eyeball thing? It's probably not because she has both eyeballs. Is this one of those blood sacs? What happened to her? Really cool environmental storytelling. When they find the sleep pods have been burst out of. So the people in the sleep pods have probably been face hugged. A lot of like cool, this is probably what happens moments. But I'd like to see more of like what actually happened, getting more expansion on that. Yeah. And I think that I've already talked about all of the other things that I'm interested in. Let me know what you guys thought about the series. Obviously, we've only got 2 episodes out so far, so we'll have a better picture at some point in the future. But let me know what you guys are thinking so far. These are pretty dense episodes. They're pretty well made. Like they're pretty dense textually. What do you guys think? Do you guys think it's shit? Do you think that small creatures aren't scary? Do you think that there needs to be more xenomorph? Do you think that there's like, what would you like to see from the series? And then, for everyone who liked it, what did you like about it? Tell me what you liked about it. Yeah. I'm going to get out of here. Thank you for joining me for another night of talking for too long about aliens. I love you. I will see you in the next video. Good night.